Welcome everyone! In this tutorial, we will understand the case study on Australia rental crisis. The rental market in Australia is currently facing a severe crisis, marked by surging prices and a scarcity of affordable housing, causing significant distress for numerous individuals and families. This escalating situation not only disrupts lives but also poses a threat to the economic stability of the nation. It is crucial to comprehend the underlying causes of this crisis to identify effective solutions. In this comprehensive case study, we will explore the multifaceted reasons behind the Australian rental crisis, encompassing issues such as inadequate housing supply, shifting demographics, and the impact of the global economy. Additionally, we will examine a variety of potential solutions aimed at alleviating the situation. Here is the news clip which talks about the crisis. Do listen. New figures have revealed rental affordability in Australia has now reached its worst level on record. New South Wales is the least affordable state. The situation is even more difficult for low-income earners, and it's unlikely to improve anytime soon. Finding a rental, especially in Sydney, has never been an easy task, but for some it's now become virtually impossible. The latest rental report shows only around a quarter of properties for rent in New South Wales are actually affordable for those earning the state's median yearly household income of around $110,000. Renters earning $69,000 a year can afford just 3% of the rentals listed, while those earning around $49,000 per year have already been effectively logged out of the market. Rents have grown much more quickly than incomes since the pandemic. Nationally, rents are up 38%, which is twice the rate of incomes. In Sydney, rents are $200 a week higher than they were at the start of the pandemic. When we got our place it was $650 for a 3-bedroom, but then over the years they went up to $720, and now that's all the way up to $900. The median weekly rent for a house in Sydney is now $750 for a unit, $680. Economists are forecasting little relief anytime soon, adding more pressure to the government to address this unprecedented rental crisis. Single mother Tilly Eastwood says the worst part of being priced out of the rental market isn't living in a garage with her 3 children. It isn't the absence of windows for light or fresh air. It's not even the 150+ failed rental applications. It's the gnawing feeling that she's letting down her kids. I started applying probably about September, so it's been about a year now. I even applied to ones that I didn't want to live in and still got rejected, she says. I've had moments where I've just applied for a heap, and then had to give up for a while because it's kind of like a kick in the face, getting that many rejections and the feeling like you can't get a place to support your own kids. We don't use the kitchen. We just use what we've got downstairs, so we stay out of my friend's way. I've never ever experienced this much issue trying to find a place. Ever. And I've been renting for over 11 years. In another interview, in the 8 months it took Michaela Roberts to find a new home to rent in Mandurah, Western Australia, she viewed more than 600 properties, moved 3 times and gave birth to a baby boy. We were applying for up to, I would say, probably 20 rentals per week and just constantly getting rejected. We ended up having to rehome our animals as well, which was very sad, the 23-year-old says. Michaela and her partner were forced to move when the owner of their home in the Mandurah suburb of Koodanup decided to sell. They'd been paying $300 a week and hoped to find something in a similar price range. They then teamed up with a friend and increased their budget to $400 a week. It was not enough. It was absolutely crazy. We even saw quite a few rentals where the back fences were missing, there was damage all through the house, and you were still expected to pay anywhere pretty much from $350 up to $500, the employment consultant says. In graph you can see, yet more evidence of the ongoing rental nightmare. A graph plotting rent prices has shown just how deep tenants have had to dig to live over the last 3 years. Now if we look at the numbers. While annual growth in national property values has gone up and down since 2020, rent values have increased at more than 8% each year in that period. Over the past decade, rents have outpaced home values only 3 times. And in Graph 2, you can see, Two of those rare occasions have occurred in the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, when the country has been smack bang in the middle of the rental crisis, and the other 2018. It has been found that rent values rose a further 0.6% in December, pushing the yearly national annual increase up to 8.3%. Over 2023, the biggest annual increases were reported in Perth, a whopping 13.4%, Melbourne 11.1%, Sydney 10.2%, the report said. Hobart and Canberra were the only two capitals where rent values dropped last year, at 3.5% and 1.9%. A severe lack of rentals on the market has helped drive up prices. At the same time, Australians struggled with rising inflation and other cost of living pressures. Over the last 12 months, tenants have grown accustomed to turning up to viewings to find lines wrapping around the block. While in this graph you can see that, in NSW and Victoria, the pandemic saw house rents in regional areas overtake capital city unit rents for the first time. In Victoria, they remain neck and neck, while in NSW, capital city unit rents have just crept past regional asking rents for houses. In Queensland, regional asking rents are now more expensive than in Brisbane, for both houses and units, a trend not seen in units since 2008 or in houses since 2013. One of the important questions which comes into the mind is how the pandemic pushed prices sky high. Even before the pandemic, rents were rising faster in the regions than in many capital cities. When the pandemic hit in 2020, it supercharged this trend, sending capital city rents plummeting and regional rents skyrocketing. Commuting towns within a couple of hours of the city, coastal regions and so-called lifestyle areas have seen some of the steepest increases in asking rents. Among them are the Gold Coast, Wide Bay and Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Richmond Tweed, Coffs Harbour and the Central Coast in NSW, Bunbury and Mandurah in WA, and La Trobe Gippsland in Victoria. Now, let's talk about the causes of the rental crisis. First is student immigration to Australia. The country is experiencing a significant influx of immigrants, with net overseas migration expected to reach 400,000 in 2022-23 and 315,000 in 2023-24. This results in a net migration rate of 5.173 per 1,000 population, a slight decline from the previous year but still substantial. Additionally, the number of international students in Australia has reached remarkable levels, with 567,947 students enrolled, including a notable proportion from China totaling 156,217 students. Second reason would be population growth. With more people to accommodate, there is a higher demand for rental properties. This demand, coupled with a lack of supply, results in higher rental prices. Essentially, when demand outstrips supply, prices rise, and this is precisely what is happening in Australia's rental market. Then comes urban migration in Australian cities. Urbanisation, particularly in Australia, continues to fuel a significant shift in population distribution. As rural residents migrate to cities in search of better employment opportunities, education, and lifestyle amenities, the pressure on the rental market intensifies. Statistics from the Australian Bureau of Statistics indicate that the nation's most populous cities witnessed an annual growth rate of 1.8% in 2018-19, largely due to urban migration. Also, foreign investors, primarily from China, the United States, and Canada, have been investing heavily in Australian residential properties, attracted by the stable economic environment and high property yields. This influx of foreign capital has prompted an increase in property prices, leading to a knock-on effect on rental rates. Next reason is low wages, wage stagnation, and fewer safety nets. The gap between wage growth and rental increase has been steadily widening. With wages remaining relatively constant, the proportion of income that individuals and families need to allocate toward rent is on the rise. This is particularly problematic for those on low incomes, who are disproportionately affected by the crisis. Low-income households are often left with little after paying for rent, pushing them towards financial stress and insecurity. And also, gentrification, a complex process of urban neighborhood transformation, significantly contributes to the Australian rental crisis. When wealthier people move into traditionally lower-income areas, landlords often seize the opportunity to increase rents, banking on these new residents' ability to afford higher prices. This phenomenon pushes out many existing residents who can't keep up with the rising costs. And many more. But the real question is that how the Australian government can help. Some of the help could be done by increasing housing supply. Zoning reform. By reforming zoning laws, cities can increase the number of areas where residential development is permitted. Reviewing taxation policies. Government could offer tax reductions to developers who commit to building affordable homes. Implications of altering negative gearing policies. Changes to negative gearing policies could have significant effects on the rental market. Regulating short-term rentals. Regulating these platforms like Airbnb might offer a necessary solution. Some cities worldwide have implemented stringent regulations, including caps on the number of days a property can be rented annually and mandatory registration systems for hosts. Prospects for Australian regulations. Introduction of a cap on the number of days a property can be rented out short-term annually, a system already in place in cities like Paris and Barcelona. Implementing wage policies and strengthening social safety nets. Addressing wage stagnation and economic inequality is a critical step toward resolving the rental crisis. And, last but not least, regulating foreign investment. Countries like Canada have introduced taxes for foreign buyers to curb skyrocketing property prices. Australia could consider similar measures to ensure foreign investment doesn't exacerbate housing unaffordability. Thank you for listening. If you've ever laughed, learned, or just slightly nodded during this video, do me a favor and give it a like. Let's create a virtual high-five moment. You can also check out important tutorials available at our channel. Do subscribe our channel and suggest in the comments section if you have any video recommendations. Stay tuned.